U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio signed a declaration expediting roughly $4 billion in military assistance to Israel. It's part of the $12 billion the Trump administration recently approved in foreign military sales to Israel. Rubio said the Trump administration will continue to use all available tools to fulfill America's long-standing commitment to Israel's security, including means to counter security threats. For more to discuss it, we are joined by Eric Mandel, founder and director of the Middle East Political Information Network, as well as a senior editor for security at Jerusalem Report. Eric, thanks for being with us on the Rundown today. Now,
Pleasure.
You yourself were recently in Washington, D.C. and attended some of these State Department meetings. Let's talk about if you learned anything and what you can share with us as far as the details of this expedited arms shipment.
I was in Washington in Congress and State on Thursday and Friday. I think the expedited delivery of military assistance is directly related to putting pressure on Hamas along the Witkoff plan. I think it's a four-part strategy. One, the new military aid that's promised. Two, Israel has 5 divisions at or near around Gaza to restart a war if that's what they decide. Plus that Trump and Bibi are on the same page. They're coordinated about stopping the humanitarian aid. We don't have that situation in the past where you had Democratic senators saying Israel is going to commit a war crime. And the fourth part here is that there's an Arab summit coming up on Tuesday. And the question is, will that ask for Hamas not to be part of a governing authority? The key here, and if you listen to some of Witkoff's words, is they talk about Hamas not being part of the government, but it must be demilitarized from U.S. National security interests. And by the way, Rubio stated that he determined that there's an emergency that exists. And it was very important what he said. He said, it is important to make this military aid now because it's in U.S. national security interests. Nothing could have no daylight between Israel and the United States making a statement that it's an American national security interest for these things. So I think that's actually a very healthy way to have a negotiation.
So it certainly seems that the Trump administration is supporting Israel if Israel does decide to go back to war with Hamas in Gaza, if this Witkoff proposal that you just mentioned doesn't go through. But is this unconditional backing from the United States right now, or are there conditions to this arms sale and these weapons, military shipments to Israel?
Well, some of the things will not be coming until later this year or next year or the year after. So I think it's more messaging. I knew because I've been embedded with 6 times with soldiers in the field since October 7th, that there was a bureaucratic arms embargo going on. The official word was that only 2,000 bombs were being stopped. But I knew on the ground firsthand that there was definitely Biden slowing things down bureaucratically. So the idea that Israel is not going to have anything slowed down anymore is a very, very big deal. Now, what does President Trump really want? He would like there to be a ceasefire. That's a victory for him. He gauges things in victories, and he thinks that taking this maximum posture, having leverage, will force Hamas to accept things going forward. The problem is, at the end, Hamas does not want to leave. And the problem is that Israel cannot allow Hamas to remain armed in Gaza, even if the civilians are radicalized. I saw a report from the Washington Institute from Dennis Ross, talked about another plan that actually made some sense, basically clearing out areas of Hamas and civilians and rebuilding those areas. And that would make a lot of sense, especially in Israel's north, which I was against Israel giving up the Netzarim crossing because they're going to have the population leave there again. And why? Because most of the communities on the Gaza envelope that were brutalized on October 7th are closest to the northern border. So that's where you would want to start. When you go to the south, the Philadelphia corridor, I don't see how Israel can leave that or else Hamas will rearm.
So it seems that this could be more of a bureaucratic move, but certainly sending a clear message from the United States. Eric Mandel, thank you for breaking down the latest for us.
My pleasure.